can view you could view our recording of our meeting and view our minutes at our website at www.cec20.org. So let me just post that in the chat really quick. Okay. And I would also like to note that there will be a public comment segment at our calendar meeting, which is going to occur, is scheduled to begin at 7 o'clock. And if you wish to speak, please sign up via the link provided. I will put that in the chat as well.
I would like to mention that I have to go after 7:15 because I'm fasting and we are in Ramadan.
Yes, so, yes. Happy Ramadan.
Thank you.
So thank you, Gada, for letting us know. So before we begin, I would like to say that our hearts go out to all those affected by those events at Sunset Park. This is our borough, our home, our people. And even though outwardly it may seem that we're moving on with life, I know that many of us are working through a lot of hardships under the surface. My hope is that we can all pull together as a community and support each other in these kinds of times of need, even if it's just lending an ear to someone who needs to vent or provide a shoulder to cry on. We are such a big, diverse group, but we all know what it is to feel pain and anxiety. And it's just part of the human condition. And we as humans, I think, are very, very resilient. So I know that we're going to be okay. It's just nice if we could all heal from this together. So I just wanted to mention that. And moving on to tonight's agenda. Natalia, can you put the agenda for tonight, please? Okay, so the first order of business is old business, and that's the approval of the March meeting minutes. And then we have a note about 2 liaison changes. And then we will have an open discussion between CEC members if anybody wanted to bring anything up. So if we could, Natalia, bring up the last month's business meeting minutes. And we'll just scroll through that real slow so everyone get a chance to take a look at the meeting minutes and see if there's any changes that we need to make. Excuse me. Natalia?
Yes, they'll be up to a little bit. It's a little slow right now.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, they'll be coming up soon. I had to re-download it because it didn't want to open up. So
Yay. Thank you, Natalia. I think that's the end of that. Does anybody have any changes that they would like to propose to the meeting minutes? Well, if not, then I would like to take a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
all
Aye.
right, any opposed? All right, minutes have been approved. So the next thing I wanted to make note of is that there's going to be a change in the school liaison assignments. Marie Brugueras is going to be the liaison for PS 102, and Yona Isufi will be the liaison for PS 506. So Natalia, when you have a chance, I think it would be great if we could update the website to reflect that.
yeah, I was just
you-
going to wait until after the meeting. And
Yeah.
I spoke with Steve Weezer, and it doesn't need to be a roll call vote, so we can just do all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good. All opposed?
Aye.
No. Okay, good. It has been approved. So I would like to take this opportunity now to let everyone know that I am continuing to work on our bylaws. It is to be very honest, a very boring process. Unfortunately, I have had to put it down several times with other projects taking priority at various points. And despite the delays, it is actually getting done slowly. And I hope to have something to present to you guys very, very soon. And I would like to present it to you at a meeting, let you think about it, digest it, and then maybe we could talk about changes and then vote on it. So that is what I would like to do with the bylaws. I'm also trying to still work on improving our liaison relationships. I've reached out to all the CEC members at this point. And basically just wanted to know which schools you haven't heard anything from yet. And those would be the schools that I would want to focus on first in building, at the very least, an introductory relationship. So ideally, this would result in a school visit, an in-person meeting of the principal, so that you can see what their needs are, what they're struggling with, and so forth. Obviously, we can only do so much, but it's nice if we could at least make an effort. I'm also trying to push for more translation services for the CECs. And I spoke with some representatives with the Translations and Interpretations Department. My impression is, unfortunately, that CEC services are not really on their priority list right now. However, I have been told that there could be translation services at the school level that we might be able to take advantage of. So we'd have to arrange this on a school by school level for things like school visits and so forth. So if any liaison requires any help with translations, communicating with their schools, or need anything in general, please let me know so that we could try and work something out. Marie, are you online still?
Here.
Yes. Did you want to talk about the legislative breakfast?
Absolutely. So we are hard at work putting together a legislative breakfast, and the date is Friday, let me just bring the calendar up so I don't say the wrong thing. It's Friday, May the 27th, starting at 8:30 a.m. And the event is for legislators that fall into our District 20, which, we have quite a few, because there's pieces in our educational district. There's bits and pieces of people's legislative districts on the Senate level and, the state assembly level, and also the city council level. So we have gotten quite a few RSVPs already from the legislators, and we're really excited about that. And there will be a full breakfast served, and we are eagerly awaiting also that our superintendent, Dr. Preto, will be attending. I think he confirmed today, so we're looking super forward. And the event will be for the principals of the district, PTA presidents, and legislators. So it will be an event that we are hoping will be a very beneficial one for the district, because obviously legislators dole out grants for schools, and oftentimes, those grants, even when they're awarded, have sometimes have a hard time being dispersed. And I do think that once principals are able to meet the legislators and establish relationships, the ability for schools to get grant money and also to have them, to be awarded and to have them be dispersed will be an easier process. And I just really think that will be a wonderful event for all involved and beneficial for our district.
Thank you. You know me, I love a good coffee, so I hope there's going to be lots of coffee there.
Yes, coffee, hopefully, tea, some good sandwiches. From what I understand, we've been given a caterer by Dr. Preto's office, which is in the neighborhood in Bay Ridge. And I have eaten from there. And I think, Jen, you have too. And it's a delicious place. So I'm
so good.
offerings too.
I'm still looking forward to that.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. Thank you, Marie. That was great. Would any other CEC member like to speak at this time?
Yes, hi. It's
Hi,
Maya.
Maya.
I just wanted to let you know that, and ask for your advice, and possibly, next meeting we can have some action items. So what comes across my community is since there is a active war in Ukraine, there some amount of refugees, and they're coming in not in a refugee status, but it doesn't matter. They're coming with children, and the children are attending schools, and Brooklyn is one of the places where usually immigrants go. So we have some influx of, we will have more, I think, this time of
Okay.
Ukrainian kids joining public schools. And these kids are really, some of them are coming from active war zone. So they're extremely traumatized. So I wonder if we, can put together maybe some informational page for principals saying, pay attention if you get kids from Ukraine, because they may need, additional services.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I
I could
just-
see that. Yeah.
I just wonder, I don't know what is the right way to do that. Just, food for thought, maybe we can do it in the next month or so, and whoever can help me to, put this together, or probably find the right way to communicate that would be, think would be good. Because I'm part of some mom groups. So, this is what happened to the mom groups. Someone from, some teacher from public school came saying, their kids and they're very traumatized. Are there any resources out there? And, of course, everyone ran and started advising things, but I wonder if public schools should be aware of this.
I think that's a really great idea, Maya. This is definitely something that we could talk about later on. And I'm really, really happy that you were able to bring that up, because this is definitely something that we need to talk about. I think it's putting together a list of resources that are available to the kids, whether in school or out of school, is probably really, really crucial for them, to make sure that they, adjust and heal. And I think that's just so important right now. And, for some of these kids, I'm sure academics is going to be the last thing that they want to deal with at this point,
Yeah,
Um,
and sort of, the school administration should also be, at least aware that, if kids come across and they are coming and, in the middle of the year and they're from Ukraine, assume that the kids are coming from very traumatized, and they need help.
Yes. Let's talk about that a little bit more offline.
Okay.
I'm so glad you brought it up. Thank you so much. We will definitely address that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else want to bring anything up? CEC members? Okay, I think that's it for the business meeting. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the business meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And so our meeting is adjourned. We will reconvene at 7 p.m. for the calendar meeting. Thank you, everybody. See you again soon.
You again. Bye.
We'll be starting in about 5 minutes, just to make sure that we get as many people as possible. Thank you. My name is Jennifer Hu, and I will be running the meeting tonight in place of Steve Stowe, our president, who is unable to make tonight's meeting. So I will be calling our business meeting to order now at 7:05 p.m. Sorry, our calendar meeting at 7:05 p.m. Vito, will you please take roll call?
Surely, Jennifer, thank you. President Steve Stowe excused. Jennifer Hu,
Here.
Second Vice President Elizabeth Chan,
Here.
Recording Secretary Vito Labella, present. Borough President appointee Marie Brugadas,
Present.
Council Member Gada Aimin,
Here.
Council Member Li Ping Yang,
Here.
Council Member Yona Isufi,
Here.
Council Member Maya Rosenblatt. Maya? Okay, we'll swing back.
Sorry, no.
I knew you were
I'm
here.
sorry. I'm here.
I knew. Council Member Kevin Zhao. Council Member Joyce Z.
Present.
Kevin, did you come back?
Kevin, he's driving right now. He told me
Oh.
his signal is not good. So
Okay, so he's here, is just incognito. Okay, guys, back to you, Jen.
Thank you, Vito. So welcome everyone to the CEC 20 April calendar meeting. I mentioned this, I'm sorry, I'm a little turned around. I would like to take this opportunity to let you know that as usual, we have translators. We have Arabic, Mandarin, and Spanish available. So please listen carefully as they introduce themselves and announce the dial-in numbers for their line. So let's begin with the Arabic translator. If you could introduce yourself in Arabic and also post the dial-in number in the chat. Thank you.
أهلا وسهلا، أنا مترجمة عبير معكم مع زميلتي تغريد. للحصول على الترجمة باللغة العربية رجاء الاتصال على رقم 347 966 4114. مرة أخرى رجاء الاتصال على رقم 347 966 4114 مع إدخال رقم حجرة الرقم العربي 342 135 045 مع علامة الشباك. مرة أخرى الرقم هو 342 135 045. الرجاء إذا أردتم البقاء معنا في حجرة الزوم والاستماع إلى الترجمة عن طريق الهاتف كتم الصوت، وإذا كان لديكم أي سؤال وضع في خانة الدردشة. وشكرا. Thank you.
Thank you. Will our Mandarin translators please introduce yourself in Mandarin? And I see that your dial-in number is already posted in the chat.
晚上好，本次会议有中文普通话翻译，如果需要中文普通话翻译，请您拨打电话347-966-4114，然后输入会议密码310-186-056井号键。再播报一遍，如果需要中文普通话翻译，请您拨打电话347-966-4114，然后输入会议密码310-186-056井号键，谢谢。Thank you.
Thank you. Now will our Spanish interpreters please introduce yourself in Spanish, and if you could post the dial-in numbers in the chat, that would be great. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. This is Gustavo, the Spanish interpreter. I apologize, but we got disconnected from the Spanish line and we haven't been accepted yet again. I'm sorry.
Oh, Steve Weezer is apparently on it.
Oh, okay, thank you. Well, I'm gonna introduce ourselves. Yeah, thank you. The following message will be said in Spanish. Hola, muy buenas noches. Gracias por acompañarnos. Si desea escuchar esta llamada en español, por favor, marque al 347-966-4114. Repito, es 347-966-4114. Y luego le pedirá que ingrese el ID de reunión, que es 257-831-813 y la tecla numeral. Repito, 257-831-813, tecla numeral. Muchas gracias. Thank you, and the message in Spanish.
Thank you. I think I just saw the Arabic line also posted in the chat. Thank you guys so much. You guys are doing a great job. And please let me know if there are any continued issues with the line. Steve Weezer said that the line should be okay now. So everyone should be able to dial into their language lines. Let me know if there are any issues so we can try and make accommodations for it. So this is a public meeting and it is being recorded. And as always, you can always take a look at our minutes and view our recordings at our website at www.cec20.org. Just going to post that in the chat so that you can all see that. Okay, and there's also a public comment segment in our calendar meeting. So if you wish to speak, please sign up via the link provided in the chat. If you scroll up a little bit, you should be able to see that. Otherwise, I think, let me just go ahead and post that again, just for reference. Okay, so before we begin, I just again want to mention that our thoughts and prayers go out to those affected by the events at Sunset Park. This is our home, you know, this is our place, our people, and it's just unconscionable what we'd have gone through already, and then this happens. And yeah, life seems like it's moving on and everybody's doing their thing. But under the surface, we all know that there's been hardships. And my hope is that we can all pull together as a community, support each other in such times of need. Even if it's just listening to someone who really, really needs to express some very strong emotions, or if somebody needs a shoulder to cry on. We're a really big, diverse group, and we all know what it means to feel pain and anxiety. But we are also really, really resilient. That's part of being a human being, right? I have no doubt that we will be okay at the end of this. But it is nicer if we can all do this together and heal together. That's just something that I'd like to throw out there. And hopefully things will look brighter going forward. So tonight's agenda, Natalia, would you mind putting up tonight's agenda for the calendar meeting? Fantastic. Hope everyone can see that. So first thing we're going to do is the March calendar meeting minutes. And then tonight we have a couple of great presentations lined up. We have the MLL presentation, Multilingual Learner, I believe it stands for, and the CCSE presentation update. That stands for, I think, sorry, community, was it special education? Citywide Council on Special Education, CCSE. There's so many acronyms. And then we have the superintendent's report. And then I am going to do a president's report on behalf of Steve So. And then there will be a public speaking segment. So just to reiterate, please, if you want to speak, just sign up in the chat. There's a link there. And you will be given a chance to have a comment made at the end of the meeting. Okay. So do we have Lisa Pineda on yet? Does anybody's Natalia, do you see her?
I don't see her yet, but we still have to do the minutes.
Okay, I'm just worried that she might be having issues logging on. Okay, let's do the meeting minutes.
Okay, I see her name, so I was able to make her co-host.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to scroll through this slowly so everyone gets a chance to read through it.
Excuse me, everybody. I have to leave. I'm sorry. It's time for us to iftar. Okay.
No problem, Gada. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
I think that's the end of it. Do any CEC members want to propose any changes to the meeting minutes? All right, so all in favor of approving the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
All opposed?
Yes.
Okay, I think the minutes are approved. Today, we have a special presentation for multi-language learners. Our CEC member, Maya Rosenblatt, has been working with Lisa Pineda from the Division of Multilingual Learners to bring us this presentation. So welcome to the meeting, Lisa. Maya, please, if you could unmute yourself, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you so much, Community Education Council 20. It is a pleasure to be here with you in community with you all. My name is Lisa Pineda, and I am the Associate Director for Student and Family Programs at the Division of Multilingual Learners. I am one of a very small team called the Multilingual Immigrant Student Support Team within the Division of Multilingual Learners. And so today we are going to speak to you about a really special project that we're super excited about for our families, and it's called the ELL Institute. So I'm going to go ahead and try and share my screen. Let's see if this works. Just bear with me for just one moment. Great. Okay, so please let me know once you see this screen.
It popped up for a second and then it sort of disappeared.
Okay. All right. Let's see if I can do this one more time. You would think after 2 years we get this right. Okay. All right. Great. Can you guys see it now?
Yeah, I think it's up.
All right, perfect. So once again, good evening, everyone. I am just going to give you just a little bit about what we have done on the family empowerment side for the Multilingual Immigrant Student Support Team within the Division of Multilingual Learners. And so this year, we've really supported our families and our communities of English language learners, and we continue to do so. We are never say we're the experts. We believe that our families are the experts, and you really help to drive this work. And so unfortunately, I will have to jump off rather quickly right after this presentation, but I will leave my email address and my phone number with you in the event that you need to get in contact with me. So in February 2022, the Division of Multilingual Learners worked closely with NABE, which is the National Association of Bilingual Education Executive Board, and the Citywide Council of English Language Learners to ensure that L-Parent partners attended an in-person session to increase their knowledge on how to support their children and English learning communities. The parents turnkeyed the information to their schools and language communities. In April 2022, we just finished this, the NYSABE conference, and so the Division of Multilingual Learners partnered with the L-Parent community leaders, the Office of Translation and Interpretation, and the Regional Bilingual Education Resource Network, NYU, to offer 3 consecutive days of workshops for parents of English language learners. The sessions were offered in English, Bengali, Chinese, Haitian Creole, Spanish, Russian, and Urdu. The parent event was co-chaired by myself and Executive Director Ron Wu from Auburn, NYU. And so now this leads us to our citywide event, and it's called L Institute. It will actually begin tomorrow. It's a series of virtual evening and weekend sessions for parents of English language learners, community members assisting the multilingual community. And the sessions are really there to they're designed to further awareness about education advocacy and strong parent-student school connections. They're there to foster a cross-cultural community, to develop a meaningful relationships, apologies for the typo there, and also to hear from diverse parent members and community leaders on culture, language, and identity. You can actually register by that link that is on the left-hand side, and I will drop that link in a moment in the chat. And so if you place your cell phones on the right-hand side, right over the QR code, that will take you directly to the registration page. The registration page has a promotional video in English. We are working to make sure that that is also translated into the 9 covered languages as well. We are working very closely with Learning Times, a production company that is ensuring that all of this will be available in 9 covered languages. And so tomorrow is actually our kickoff. We are doing this at the Microsoft Experience Center. We're really excited about that. And to all of our L-Parent leaders in all of the CECs, our CCEL, as well as our CEC parent leaders, you are more than welcome to join us tomorrow. It is, Microsoft still has some rules around COVID. And so we are asking, well, they are asking that they're highly encouraging that folks wear masks and that they be vaccinated. It is an encouragement. They cannot mandate, but they are encouraging folks to do that if they plan to join tomorrow's session. It's the only session that will be in person and online. So we will actually begin at 4:00 p.m. tomorrow. Microsoft will give a session to our parents, and we will then move on to a Microsoft tour. If you haven't yet visited this center, it is definitely something that you would want to visit with your children. It's about 7 floors. And so they'll make sure that you are well taken care of on that day. So tomorrow, it will begin at 4:00 p.m. with welcome, greeting, light refreshments, and Microsoft will give a presentation. From the presentation, they'll give a tour. From that point forward, there'll be a little bit of networking amongst ourselves, and then we will jump right into our first online session. We're really excited about that because we've worked very closely with parent leaders to ensure that this happens. And so our parent leaders were the ones who planned this. And so we have 3 parent leaders, Aissatou Sow from the West African community. And we have Fatima Lacrafil from CEC 30, and she is from the Arabic speaking community. And then we also have Aide Saraida Flores, and she is from District 9, and she is speaking on behalf of the Mexican speaking community. I'm sorry, the Spanish speaking community, the Mexican community. And so we are really excited because they will talk about culture, identity, and language, and how that's important to maintain that with not only in the home, but also in the school. So as we move along, we are offering these sessions in partnerships with IMSchools. IMSchools is a CBO, it's a community-based organization that really supports our undocumented communities. They really offer a lot of workshops around college and career readiness, include NYC, which really supports our students with special needs, Advocates for Children, which does the same, Microsoft, Heroes of Color and NYU were really strong partners in really developing our first animated video of the Bill of Rights for parents of English language learners. We're working very closely with the Office of Adult Education to offer sessions, NYSABE, the New York State Association of Bilingual Education. And obviously none of this could be done without the Office of Translation and Interpretation. So to all of them, we give thanks. Without them, we would not be able to do these sessions. And so along with this is really to create a virtual community amongst our parents and community members that support our English language learners, our multilingual community, our undocumented and immigrant community. So we will offer 10 live sessions with interpretation. There will be 6 pre-recorded videos, and we will also have PowerPoints translated in all 10 languages. In addition to that, our office has also partnered with NYU Auburn, and they have been able to offer culturally responsive workshops to staff members and families around the Bengali, South Asian communities, the Arab American communities, and really also speaking about the Muslim diaspora and African communities. So our team has decided to visit our family welcome centers. Want to visit our family welcome centers because we really want to learn about their needs. How do they support our newcomer families? What can we do as a division to support them and to support our families as well? And so it's really important to hear from folks on the ground for us in order for our work to really be of value. And so once again, it is extremely important for our team to really hear not only from families, but also from students and staff on how we can better support our newcomer families. What we've also done is cultural walks. We started doing cultural walks with the community. What that is,
Lisa, I think you're cutting out a bit.
can you hear me?
Okay, I think it's better now.
Okay, so thank you. So we started doing the cultural learning walks, and we began with the Senegalese community. We plan to do a couple of these walks just to really learn more from our cultural multilingual communities. Once again, it's extremely important for us to connect and learn in order for this to drive our work. And I'm not sure if you heard this before, but it's also really important not only to hear from families, but to hear from students and staff and the community itself. And so in our learning walk with the Senegalese community, we visited the CBOs that support the Senegalese communities. We walked into local vendors, and so we spoke with the local vendors that really support the Senegalese community in Manhattan. And we learned that a lot of these local vendors really offer a lot of services. It's not, they just don't sell items, but they really offer a lot of services to support this community. It's a very tight community. We also met with the local ethnic radio host as well to just really hear more about the needs of our Senegalese community. And once again, we do want to continue doing this. So if you would like to host a cultural learning walk, we are definitely reach out to us because we would love to really connect with you. Moving forward, some of the resources that will be coming out in 2022 is a family brochure covered in the 9 covered languages. Once again, we are taking the Bill of Rights for parents of English language learners and animating that, and that will be in 12 languages. We're designing a 1-pager for newcomer families of English language learners, New York City DOE guide for our newcomer families as well, and a bilingual education poster, because it's so important for our families to really understand not only their rights, but also what is readily available to their students as well. So, lastly, summarizing. The Division of Multilingual Learners is offering 3 programs. We're now in the process of really designing that. And so there's more information that will be forthcoming. But the intergenerational program is just really a program that supports our older and our younger generation. There is definitely a gap there based on the conversations that we've had with multiple cultural communities. And so these programs will hopefully merge the two and to like really understand the generations. Community Speaks is with the office of Moya, the mayor's office of sorry, the name is escaping me right now. The mayoral office, it's called Moya. It'll come to me and I'll write it in the chat. And so that is specifically for families that would love to learn English, and cultural explorations will actually be in 4 different boroughs. And in these boroughs, we will offer this in the Bronx, in Brooklyn, in Manhattan, and in Queens. And cultural explorations is just basically partnering with 4 different cultural CBOs that will support our cultural communities, our families, and our students. So there will be both. It will be either in the arts, or it will be in creating and designing a business plan for our students, in really understanding how to learn more about designing a program based on the needs that they see. We will offer one for our Haitian Creole community. And we're also looking into right now how to support our Arabic speaking communities as well. So that is what we'll be working on in the next few months until summer. And that's basically what I have as of now. So I want to thank you all for allowing me to stay here, share a little bit. I can stay for like maybe 2 minutes if you have any questions at all that I'm able to answer. If not, I'll definitely leave my email. And you can certainly feel free to reach out to me. Now, if you would like to register for the ELL Institute, I'll just put this in the chat right now. And you can click on that link, and that link will take you directly into a host of things. And just really quickly, Jennifer, if I may, I would love to just show what where that link will take you to.
Sure, sure.
Thanks. Let me just make sure that I can do this. Okay. Great. So do you see the page?
Yes.
Great. So it'll take you to a link where the video, you can click on where it says either upcoming events down below or where it says registration. It's the same thing. And here you will see all of these sessions that will be offered. We'll offer 3 sessions in April, 3 sessions in May, 3 sessions in June, and then we return to Microsoft for mini workshops and a celebration. And so when you click on it, it will show the presenters, it will show the organization, and you can register in your language. So it's very simple, easy to use, and I hope to see you guys there soon.
Thank you, Lisa. Maya, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Sorry. Yes, I just would like to thank you, Lisa, and also I have a question. Would it be possible, Lisa, that if there is an interest in our schools, maybe there is they can ask you to speak to PTO or somehow advocate for bilingual learners in school. So, I'll stay in touch with you just to brainstorm the ideas of how, because I don't know how many people, knew about this wonderful opportunity to go to the workshop and to use the website. So I think, from our standpoint, we can kind of advertise this and make it more wide known for the parents. So just ideas of where to show it, school website, maybe send it to principal, assistant principal, PTO, SLT. What is your experience? How to best reach the audience? How can we help you to advertise it?
Well, that's an excellent question. So I would say, I've worked on at the school level, I've worked at the district level, at the central level. And so it's just really, right now, it's kind of like word of mouth. I did share an email with CEC 20. Maya, I'm not sure if I got the right email. I hope I did. If not, please feel free to send me your email and I can send it out to you. But yeah, I would say President's Council, I sent it to CCEL, CCHS, I sent it to CPAC. I am sending it to community leaders. I am printing on my behalf, I'm printing the flyers and going to local vendors and asking them, hey, can I put this flyer up around where I live? And so around where I live, it's primarily a lot of Bengali families. And so, that's what I'm doing. I would say, I would encourage, I would ask if you want to do something like that. If not, email is always a great way. Email, sending it through email and you're within your network. I will share with you the flyer once more. And so I'll send the flyer to you as a PDF, and then certainly feel free to disseminate that and just share to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya.
Hello.
Hey.
I also wanted to, when you made this presentation, it feels to me that you're excluding Eastern Asian people and people, I kind of feel uncomfortable with that. Because you're saying South Asians, Muslims, Blacks, Hispanics, but you don't put East Asian as a part of the people of color, of a part of this community of POCs. And I really feel uncomfortable about that.
Well, I
Like
appreciate you
we're
bringing,
being excluded.
the intention is not to exclude anyone, hence the reason why we would love to do more cultural walks. We are always learning, we are perpetual learners.
Yeah,
And
I just feel like when you did this presentation, you said every other people of color, but you didn't add Eastern Asian as a people of color. And I just don't like that. I'm just letting you know.
so how about we do this? Would you like to reach out to me and maybe we could do something together for that community? And we can put that in there, because it's definitely not my intention to do that. I want to.
No, but we should be part of this, included into this community already from the start.
So I work
a lot
very,
of second English language learner in this community. I just wanted to acknowledge us.
and I appreciate that. Elizabeth is your name?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth, thank you. I didn't really share too much, right? Because my heritage isn't there, my culture isn't there. It's not represented in this presentation either. So I would love the opportunity to have more conversations about how we can represent more cultures. I've worked very closely with our parent leaders to make sure that these topics are for everyone. So culture, identity, and language, that is a session that is for everyone. It's just because we're highlighting, we're not really highlighting, but we have 3 people that volunteered their time to plan for this, doesn't necessarily mean that it's excluding everyone. We definitely want to be inclusive, but it's also really important to make sure. So I thank you for bringing that up, Elizabeth. Thank you for calling that out. And again, I am open to having more conversations with you to learn more and to do more for that community.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for not being offended for me bringing up something that's, important to our district.
Absolutely, absolutely. I could never be offended by that, believe me. Thank you for advocating for that and for calling it out. So I appreciate you for that.
Thank you.
Does any other CEC member have any questions or comments for Lisa and Maya? Since Lisa, I know that you have to sign off very soon. Does anybody else in the members of the public have any quick questions that they would like to ask? Okay, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure. We hope to hear more great things coming our way from you guys. And if you could just drop your email address or contact information in the chat before you head out, just one last time, that would be so helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely. I just dropped it, but I'll do it again. And again, I welcome any conversation with CEC 20. Everyone in CEC 20, especially you, Elizabeth, and certainly let's have more conversations. Let's do more for our community. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Maya.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. So the next thing we have is a presentation from the Citywide Council on Special Education, or otherwise known as CCSE. And tonight, our speaker is CCSE's co-president, Ellen McHugh. Ellen, if you could unmute, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you very much. Just for a bit of information, I live in District 20. My children went to PS 204, PS 204 and P185, and they went to IS 259 and IS 227, and to the Sing Song School, the High School of Telecommunication and Technology. My eldest son is a person with a disability, and that's how I became involved. I have been doing this for a while. I was a parent member on the CSE for District 20 for a number of years and was appointed 110 years ago to the CCSE by Betsy Gotbaum, believe it or not. And I've served under Betsy Gotbaum, Bill de Blasio, and now Jemani Williams. My son is an adult. He has a severe to profound bilateral sensory neural hearing loss. It took me years to learn how to say that. He's deaf. He is married and living in Alexandria, Virginia. He's married to a young woman from Bogota, and they have a little girl who is 4 years old. He is gainfully employed, as is his wife. She is a massage therapist. The reason they are located in Alexandria, Virginia is because Gallaudet University is down there, and Gallaudet University is the only university in the world that uses American Sign Language as its primary form of communication. Adriana came up from Bogota she came to America, to the United States, because it was a better spot for her to learn, to be educated, and of course, to meet my son, who's absolutely stunning and gorgeous, right? When Steve asked me to come to do this, and when I see him, I think I may throttle him. It was a much more relaxed. He told me it was going to be a conversation. But having said that, and like most families and parents of kids with disabilities, we all learn how to move quickly on our feet. The committee, the CCSE, the Citywide Council on Special Education, is one of 3 citywide councils mandated under New York State Education Law 2590 B and C. We have 3 obligations. One is to write a report, an annual report on the state of special education in New York City. Another is to consult with the Department of Education. And a third is to hold a public meeting once a month for the public. We meet in our working session on the first Thursday of the month, and for our calendar meeting on the 3rd Thursday of the month. We split it up because our meetings were starting to run until 11 and 12 o'clock at night. And it just wasn't working. And since it's a citywide organization, there were a lot of different topics or points that had to be addressed from different, from Queens to Staten Island to the Bronx to Co-op City and District 20, of course. So it was more efficient to divide our time up better in that way. We have, we are lucky, we have a full council at this point now. And to tell the truth, we have a preponderance of District 20 people. Cynthia Arbulu-Vaca, Paulette Healy, Paulette Ha Healy, Francine Almash, and myself are all from the District 20 community. And we have a number of other people who are from Brooklyn. So we have, in the next elections, we're going to have to be a little bit more diverse, says me. We also have multi-language individuals. We have a person who speaks, uses Spanish as a primary form of communication. She's from the Bronx. Another person, oh, sorry, I forgot Wen Meng. Wen Meng Chen is also from District 20, and she is a person who uses Chinese translator at meetings. Our goal is to not only be a source of information for families, but a place for families to come and to advocate. I know that the prior speaker mentioned Include New York and Advocates for Children, but I'd like to remind everyone here that there are other avenues for advocacy, as it were, including the Citywide Council on English Language Learners, the Citywide Council on Special Education, the Citywide Council on High Schools, and the District 75 Community Education Councils. It's a lot to say and a lot for people to hear. I'm not sure what it was Steve wanted me to present on. I will tell you that we just finished our, I felt, very successful IEP representative conference. At that conference, we had John Liu speak. John Liu, I'm sure you know, is the chairperson of the New York Senate, New York City Education Subcommittee. That's a lot. We had a well-informed panel on reading diversity. The issue at that panel was that while dyslexia is the overall word used, dyslexia is much rarer than most people think. Reading disabilities are not that rare, and whether or not children learn to read is one of our biggest issues, because without that, you really can't progress through the system. Another issue that we discussed is the use of assistive technology, how to get an assessment free for nothing, as we say in Brooklyn, or used to say in Brooklyn, and other resources that parents can access, including a list of advocacy organizations like Include New York or Advocates for Children, because you do need to know an outsider every once in a while to get your point across on the inside. It's uncomfortable, but sometimes special education does become a conflict. It's not something that you want to do, but it can be a source of conflict for the school, the parents, and the district. Now that I put my foot in that hornet's nest, I want to assure folks that it is our belief that no one comes to this job to educate children out of malice. People come to this job because they want to do the right thing for children. Sometimes we have differing opinions, and the best way to do it is to keep the communication lines as open as possible. And we on the CCSE try to encourage that type of, sorry for the noise, I am sitting next to a window. Try to encourage that type of open communication so that confrontation is not the norm, but is a rarity. We also are hopeful in all cases that children will get the services they need. All of us who have children with special education needs know at this point in time right now that there is huge learning loss for these children who already started out at a deficit. And special education recovery services was going to be considered a lifeline for some of the children. There was some real difficulty in rolling it out. Large bureaucracies, even when they are broken down into 32 smaller community school districts, large bureaucracies have a very hard time turning or changing. And special education recovery services were supposed to begin early in the fall. And as most of you probably realize, didn't start until December. There's still some question about how special education recovery services will roll out this summer. One of the biggest problems with those services was that they were offered after school, and in some cases on a Saturday. If they were offered after school, no busing was offered. And I don't know about other folks here, but after my youngest went to kindergarten, I went back to work because I knew I wasn't going to be able to afford college unless both of us were working. So it would have been very difficult for me, even with the large family and support system here in District 20, grandma, grandpa, cousins, aunts, and uncles. It would have been very, very hard for me to have my kids or my one son with a special education need in an after-school program with no busing when he was a little guy. Hopefully, they will solve some of this issue for the summer program. For those of you who have children with IEPs who may be looking at special education recovery services for the summer, I would urge you to speak with the superintendent to find out, or the district administrator, no, that's the wrong title. I was gonna say district administrator of special ed. I don't, Mr. Preto, is there a title anymore?
Hi, Alan. How are you? It's good to
Hi,
see you. Administrator for special education. Yeah,
It is,
currently
okay.
through the borough citywide office. Through Brooklyn South.
I would urge you to be in touch with folks, with your staff at school, with the coordinator at school, just to talk to them about what you think might be an appropriate special education recovery service site for your child. For those of you who have children with extended school year on your IEP, it's usually just shortened to ESY. Many of you will be seeing your children go to either the school they attended all year long or to a District 75 site to get those extended services. If, like myself, my son, as I said, was deaf and his services came through District 75, but I was obstinate. Actually, I was probably obnoxious and insisted that he get his services in school, not in District 75, and that if there were any summer services, that they would be provided at the local school. And believe me, we took full advantage of summer services, especially in high school. Spanish was not a strong point, and social studies became difficult. So he did have to attend summer school. And we did do it here in District 20 at the High School of Telecommunication Arts and Technology. I told you all that to tell you that the CCSE is here as a sounding board. It's here as a way for you to have access to and create, sorry for the noise, and to help create programs that benefit the children in cooperation with the system that is currently here. It may be a cumbersome system, it may be a confusing system, it may be difficult to manage, but at the end, when you have managed your way through the maze that is education and special education, you will be able to come back and talk to a parent or a group of parents and say, this is what you gotta do, and this is how you're gonna do it. It may be in slang, but that's what you're gonna say, and that's what you're gonna do, because you're gonna be able to translate your information, and not only in a second language, although translate is not a bad word to use, not only translate your knowledge about special education in District 20, but support those parents who are coming up, who are just as confused and just as worried and just as concerned as you were when your child was first identified as having a special education need, or when you realized that your child was not developing in the same way that his, in the bureaucratic term, age-appropriate peers were developing, and went and sought an evaluation. As difficult as it is, and as rewarding as it can be, I salute you for doing it and for taking that job on. I'm not sure where to go from here because I didn't bring a presentation. And when I get a hold of Steve, I'm gonna throttle him.
Ellen, thank you so much. Do you mind if I just quickly post your phone number, not your phone number, but the CCSE phone number, email, and website in the chat?
Sure.
Just so that they can connect with you guys.
No problem. At one point in time, I think my own phone number was written on the wall in some school. I don't know.
Wow. That's wild.
Listen, there's no privacy. There's no privacy in a public building, and there's no privacy in a public meeting either.
Thank you, Ellen, so much. I think that you had a question for Dr. Preto.
I had a
Um,
question about special education recovery services, which is why I spent so much time talking about special education recovery services.
So just before we move on, Dr. Pro, did you want to, was that going to be covered in your, okay, so let's,
I'm going to give two kind of high level data points on SIRS during my report. So, and then we can definitely discuss, unless you want to discuss now, I'm happy to do so.
yeah, Ellen?
During your presentation, I would ask that you also addressed addressing adding sites for District 75. This is a prejudice on my part. Others do not feel this way. I don't feel that there should be self-contained schools for children with disabilities. I don't think that segregated and self-contained has ever helped anybody. It has in many ways led to a lessening of expectations, and in some cases, created fear in the general ed community. I don't know how many people know the Children's School. The Children's School is down in District 15 on Carroll Street. It is a fully inclusive site. When we opened that, and we did open it against community objection, people asked me if my son's disease was catching. People asked other parents if autism meant that they were mad. Those kind of questions are still asked. There may be a lack of information on our part. Maybe we're not doing the best job we can to get the word out that children with disabilities have talents and gifts and intelligence, as do other children and adults, and that there are services and supports for those children and adults in communities. But as much as it's pleasing to hear that a District 75 school is going to be opened in the old Our Lady of Guadalupe, it's hard for me to hear that 76 kids will be segregated into a building. I hope that there will be opportunity, since they're not going to be very far from a public school, that there'll be opportunity for community, minimally for community involvement or common joyful experiences. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go on a rant. See what you get when you ask. Sorry.
No problem, Ellen. Excuse me.
No, and Ellen, I hear you 100%. And we spoke when we released initially the information about the identification of the, securing Our Lady of Guadalupe site alongside the K322 elementary site and the K672 middle school site, or flip that, I'm sorry, K322 middle school and K672 elementary school. So both of those sites will have District 75 satellite programs embedded within the community school. And then the OLG site will be standalone. For all the reasons.
Someday it will all be together, but that's
no, I know. It was a difficult decision, and one of our tasks was to imagine how the standalone site Our Lady of Guadalupe could be an inclusive site, and we counterbalanced that against the seat need for student District 20 residents with D75 on their IEPs, and the size of OLG, and the challenge of creating an inclusive site against the seat need and continuing and creating that site and still having students having to ride buses out of the district to attend school ultimately was one of the big decisions behind identifying it as a standalone site instead of having it be an inclusive site. Other reasons too, but including location and other things. But for all the reasons that you named, that was initially our goal, was to have it as an inclusive site. But the size of it and the location of it really did not, and the number of seats that were in demand, and that we continue to project to be in demand by the time that the site is ready to be occupied by students, outweighed the benefits of the design for the inclusive site. So, but it was not an easy decision. We definitely struggled with it for the reasons that you named.
I know, but there's always hope.
There's always the next site. Well, we will keep looking.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ellen. Does anyone have any questions for Ellen? Any CEC members? All right, Dr. Preto, I think you're up for your superintendent update.
Sure. Thanks, Jen. And good evening, District 20. I wanted to just start by addressing the tragedy of yesterday, of April 12th, and on the R train. And just in terms of, and I want to thank you for at the top for acknowledging it. It was a challenging day for all of our families, students, school leaders, and teachers. We did place several schools in the district on a shelter in during when we were notified of the events and the proximity of the event of the incident to some of our schools. We also placed some additional schools on shelter-ins to be proactive and to be sure, because we were not in our coordination with the Office of School and Youth Development, Student Youth Development, with the NYPD, and with the Division of School Leadership. We were aware that there was not, the suspect hadn't been detained, so we were sheltering in schools within certain radiuses to make sure that children were safe. And I want to clarify that this is when a shelter-in is called a shelter-in is a security measure that we take when there is a potential danger outside of a school building, where we essentially secure the outer perimeter and the doors, and we don't allow anybody in and we don't allow anybody out. Business as usual continues within the school. So during shelters in yesterday, instruction was continuing. It is quote unquote business as usual, but we did place several schools under shelter in yesterday to be responsive and ensure that out of an abundance of caution, really, that students were safe. And as soon as we were directed by NYPD that the cause for concern was not impacting our schools, we lifted shelter-ins. There were a couple of schools that were in shelter-in for about 2 hours yesterday. So again, shelter-in is our lowest level of intervention. It is designed so that when there is potential danger outside the school building, we can implement it to keep children safe, but also be able to continue instruction and not cause any unneeded alarm. So I wanted to thank all of our principals and teachers who were operating under those conditions yesterday while it was occurring. We know that folks obviously have mobile technology, social media, and we're aware of events that were happening outside the school building. And we had no incidents while the shelter-ins occurred, and it's really a tribute to the principals and the teachers and all school staff who maintained a level of calm during that really challenging time. So I really thank them all, and I want to thank families for communicating with schools and being understanding. I know that there's we have a desire and an instinct to protect our children, and I really thank families for working with their schools, with their parent coordinators, with their principals, to be able to communicate back and forth, understand what what our response was to the incident, and enabling the school day to continue. So I want to thank everybody. It was a challenging day, but ultimately, thankfully for our schools and our students, not as as challenging as some of our partners in District 15 and in the Sunset Park community. So I want to thank everybody for that. I want to recognize, I know that one of our council members and many of our families aren't able to be on in an observance of Ramadan, so I just want to acknowledge all of our families and students who are observing Ramadan, and also note that April is Arab American Heritage Month, and that is kind of part of our overall approach in the district to ensure that we are recognizing and celebrating all of our students and our families and their backgrounds and cultures. So I just want to, just to acknowledge and celebrate and welcome Arab American Heritage Month, while also acknowledging and celebrating all of our families who are celebrating Ramadan. I wanted to provide an update in terms of our academic screeners. So last month I was able to provide an update on our iReady student performance for our winter benchmarks. We do administer the iReady academic screener for reading in grades 3 to 8 and in math for grades K to 8. So I was able to provide that data at last month's meeting. I did not provide an update for how our K to 2 students were performing in literacy through our academic screener. We use Acadience rather than iReady. The Acadience screener was the tool approved by the Division of Teaching and Learning and the Department of Education for our academic screener. So all of our schools utilize the Acadience platform. So I just wanted to be able to report on our goal of having all students, and our chancellor's goal and our mayor's goal, and has been a goal of ours as a department for a few years now, around having students reading on grade level by 3rd grade. So I just wanted to give an update of how our 2nd graders are doing. So currently, as of the winter benchmark, we have 65% of our 2nd graders who are performing at or above the benchmark, on track for proficiency by the end of 2nd grade. So that's where we're at currently. As with the goal of having all students reading on grade level by 3rd grade, we have a goal of 100% of our 2nd graders reading by grade level by the end of the year. So I'll provide an update on the impact of our efforts in meeting this goal at our most likely our June meeting. But I just wanted to be able to provide that update. We're at 65% right now of our District 20 2nd graders reading at or above benchmark. Next, I wanted to just provide an update with some special education data. Last year when I came on, there was a request for some special education data regarding compliance, so I wanted to provide our progress in those efforts this year. I didn't realize that Ellen would be with us, but it's very apropos, so I'm glad she's here. So I'm going to provide a couple of data points just in terms of our compliance with special education for our students with disabilities. So the first data point is the percentage of students who are fully served. That means that every component of their IEP is scheduled program is being served. So we're currently at 89% of students with disabilities being fully served as per their mandates on their IEP. Ellen, I see your hand up. Do you want me to call on you after I give the points, or do you have a question right now?
That's a mistake.
Okay. Gotcha.
You shouldn't have asked me that. No, I'll wait. I'll wait.
Gotcha.
I'll wait.
So students who are fully served is at 89%. Students who are fully linked, which means that they are programmed, but that there may be 1 or 2 components. We're at 93% of students who are fully linked. And then for related services, we are at 97% of students being first encountered, meaning that students who have related services on their IEP have met with their service provider and are receiving services for related services. This is speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and other related services, counseling. So we're at 97% of students receiving related services. And then regarding the special education recovery services, so this is a new data point. Obviously, SERS is a new service that is seeking to provide students with services as a result of missing out on particular services during the pandemic and remote and hybrid learning. So I'm able to offer a couple of data points. So I'm able to provide an update on how many students who are eligible were offered services. So families were offered services, and then how many students are currently who have had their recovery services fully served. So we have been able to offer those services to 96% of eligible students and families. And currently we've been able to fully serve 56% of those recovery services. The recovery services are ongoing, and they operate in cycles. So there are a number of reasons why we're not at 100% for both, but we are at 96% of offering and 56% of fully served. Next, I wanted to just be able to give some updates on Summer Rising. So Summer Rising will be offered this year. It's a similar structure to last year. Summer Rising will be of summarizing will be a combination of academic programming and enrichment programming that is provided through a combination of school staff and community-based organization staff over a full day, with a morning program geared towards academics and social emotional learning, and an afternoon program designed for enrichment opportunities, field trips, sports, art, and other pieces that are specific to the offering and capacity of the community-based organizations that are connected to the school site and the schools that children are attending with. There will be an enrollment process that will be parent-driven. There will be an enrollment portal will be opened up on April 25th. That's the day we return from the spring break. And at that time, parents will be able to enroll for Summarizing at a site of their choice across the city, as long as there are seats available at that site. Students will not be restricted within Summarizing to the school where they currently attend. They will be able to attend Summarizing at any site across the city as long as there are seats available. The enrollment portal will open April 25th and will close sometime in May at a date undetermined. But it will, as sites fill up, once a site is full, the enrollment portal will no longer accept additional seats for that school, and the enrollment will be capped. Students who are mandated for summer school will be able to attend summer school at their home site. And with regard to curricular resources and programming, this year the Department of Education will support all summer sites with access to curricular resources in English language arts, math, social studies, science, and social emotional learning. Next, I just wanted to give a reminder that when we return from spring break on April 26th and 27th, the New York State math exams in grades 3 to 8 will be administered across our schools, and April 28th will be identified as a day for makeup. So again, just a reminder that the New York State math exams are going to be administered right when we return from break on April 26th and 27th. Next, I just want to provide a reminder for families and to look out for communication from your schools around the Affordable Internet Connectivity Program provided through the federal government. This is a program that includes pandemic recovery funds, and there is still funding available, and schools have received materials to be able to communicate with families around their eligibility to apply for the Affordable Internet Connectivity Program, which supports subsidizing the monthly internet bills for families. So this program is still available, and schools will be sending out communication from the DOE to support application for this supportive resource for being connected to high-speed internet. Next, the New York City School Survey is still underway. However, we are up against the deadline for submitting paper surveys. So if families are completing the New York City School Survey via the paper application, the deadline for putting it in the mail is tomorrow, April 14th. If it is mailed by the end of the day on April 14th, it will reach the survey company who does the calculation of the survey in order to be counted in the count. So again, the New York City School Survey is still ongoing, but tomorrow at the close of business is the deadline for putting the paper application in the mail. You can do it yourself, or if you turn in the paper application to the school, sealed in the envelope that's provided, the school will mail it for families on their behalf. And then finally, just yesterday, the results of the specialized high school exam for students who took the exam were released in the My Schools application yesterday, and schools were made aware, and result letters began to be distributed by guidance counselors and other school staff yesterday to students who did take the specialized high school exam. So again, the specialized high school results are available in the My Schools website, as well as through distribution by school staff, including guidance counselors. So those were the major points that I had for my update, but I'm happy to take any questions from the council.
Does any CC member would have a question that they would like to address with Dr. Preto?
Yes. Hi, Jennifer, if I may.
Hi, Yona.
Hi, Superintendent Preto. Today, I would like to bring up a topic that has been brought to us by a parent in the past, and that has to do with the science program in the school. We have questions related to how many times each student in the K through 5, how many times do they have science? Is the science curriculum similar, or are all schools following the same science curriculum? Or is that very oriented or specific to the school in particular?
So I heard a couple questions. I want to make sure I have them, and then if I'm missing anything, just let me know. So first, I heard a question around science programming in elementary school in K to 5. Is it how many periods per week or how many minutes per week students are sitting for science?
Yes.
Okay. And then, and the second question was around curriculum or curricular resources for science. Like what are schools using?
Right. If all the schools, for example, if the schools in District 20, let's say my son is at PS 170, another child is at PS 127. If if children at different schools are being exposed to a similar science curriculum.
Got it. Okay, so great. So the programming piece is, I'll start with that. So science is programmed by different schools in different ways, but the state and the city have a minimum minutes per week that science is to be programmed into student schedules. So there is a minimum per week that students need to be engaged in science. Some schools go over it, and some schools address science in different ways, including interdisciplinary design. So there are students in the district who experience more than the required minutes per week of science instruction, but there is a requirement of particular minutes per week for science instruction. I can't call it off the top of my head, but I will look it up. It amounts to approximately 4 to 5 periods per week. But we did switch in New York from periods to minutes, so that to kind of it's what the state did. Regarding curricular resources, so there are a number of curricular resources that schools use. A very common one is Amplify Science. That's one that is commonly used across many of our schools, but not all schools use Amplify Science. There are other resources. Some schools use a resource that was developed by National Geographic, and other schools use different partnerships as well as interdisciplinary project-based curricula to engage in science. In addition, but many of our schools do use Amplify. In addition to that, we do have a STEAM, or Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Math program and initiative in our district that involves STEAM coaches who work in 9 of our schools, coordinating professional development for STEAM teachers in all 40 of our District 20 schools to coordinate projects that are connected to STEAM. And we just had our District 20 STEAM Expo, where students presented their projects across from pre-K to 8 to school community members online. It was the first, this is not the first time that District 20 has had the STEAM Expo, but it is the first time it was conducted online. And it was a great success, and we were really excited to be able to expand that. So it's definitely connected to science, but also looking into our focus and our chancellor's priority for connecting our students to 21st century learning opportunities and having pathways of learning to college and career. I do want to note and highlight that many of our schools, definitely in middle school, but also in elementary school, engage students in like really real practical learning experiences that tie in science, but definitely more of this STEM or STEAM, including learning computer coding. We have elementary students learning Python computer code as early as 3rd grade, and also engaging in robotics experiences in the elementary school. So it's definitely something that is a priority in our district, and we're always looking at opportunities to build teacher capacity and expand those opportunities.
Okay, thank you so much. Would you be open if I send you an email with some other more specific questions that I would like to send an email instead of bringing them up now, so you might be able to research and, you know, answer more specific to the science curriculum?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much. I will be doing that in the next couple of days. I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Thank you, Yona. Thank you, Dr. Preto. Just wanted to make a note that we seem to be having some issues with the language lines. Looks like the Mandarin line got disconnected, and earlier the Spanish line was disconnected, but that should be okay now. Steve Weezer is trying to fix that, I hope. Okay, they're all open now, sorry. So we could move on. Does anybody else have any questions for Dr. Preto, any CEC members?
Yes, actually, I mean, I do think our district did well yesterday, but I feel like we should work harder to close the city when it happens, because a lot of our students were, like the van that was part of the attack, it was found right behind my sister's house. I mean, I think we should have closed down the school district harder. I mean, I think there should be emergency meeting with the police and to see how to fix it, to make it stronger if next time an emergency happens like this. There's a lot of students, a lot of teachers, a lot of staff were part of the NNR, because the 36th Street station is like where everybody transferred for trains. And there's quite a few high school students that said that they saw the effects of it, especially, you know, even in District 20. So I feel like it was good that it like the way it happened, but I just feel like we need to tighten security or protocols around if another incident happens.
Elizabeth, can I piggyback on yours?
Okay, yes, go ahead.
So Doctor, could you please explain the protocol for a lockdown and who has to get permission from whom? And can a principal do it on their own?
So a lockdown's different than what we did yesterday.
I apologize, shelter in place.
So a shelter in place can be called by a principal, and a shelter in is, or the BRT leader, and a shelter in is designed to respond to the potential of danger that's located outside of the school building, so out on the street somewhere. And that can be, like yesterday, 36th Street, the closest schools that we have are located, at the 59th Street and 3rd Avenue corners, and Pershing, JHS 220 is also, somewhat near, as well as PS 160, where they were definitely within a 1 mile radius. So, we initially called shelter in for those sites out of an abundance of caution initially, as we learned more about the incident in coordination with NYPD, and then our safety folks, OSYD, and the Division of School Leadership, continued. NYPD is the agency that supports the DOE in the implementation of these interventions: shelter in, evacuation, soft lockdown, hard lockdown. So they're aware of these interventions, and depending on the scenario and situation, we'll work with OSYD to make determinations about, especially when there's an event that involves NYPD on such a wide scale, to support on the lifting of these shelter-ins. So in some cases, the NYPD is the one who can lift a shelter-in instead of the principal or school staff.
But I mean, as far as, is it a big deal for a principal to just do it? I mean, so they do it and then say, okay, well, all right, we were mistaken or whatever, and we'll just open the doors again.
It's a case-by-case basis.
But they don't need approval to do it. They don't need to make a phone call to do it, to
depends.
Graciano's. It depends?
It depends. It's a case-by-case basis.
What does it depend on?
The nature of the threat and the imminence of the danger.
So you're saying
And,
that
the principal's ability to be able to determine whether or not that danger is no longer there.
yeah, you keep on talking about removing it. I'm talking about to do it, to place it in place. Because what I'm trying to say, David, is that there was a big lag time.
You're asking, does a principal have the ability to call a shelter in on their own?
Yes, on their own, just do it.
Yes.
And there won't be any repercussions if they were wrong.
It's a tough question.
No one's going to criticize them because that's the problem. No one wants to make a decision. And the fact that you talk about a 1 mile radius, and to this is Elizabeth's point, 1 mile is nothing. He could be at your office in 5 minutes. And there was a big lag in time between the incident and between things started to happen. And you mentioned social media, and we know the Citizens app, and we know this and we know that. And this is a systemic problem. This is not a Dave Preto problem or District 20 problem. This is a bigger problem. But, you know, it's okay for people in the office to have a Citizens app on and then use their discretion if the bigger the event to say, screw this, let's just lock down without waiting for anybody to make that decision, without calling somebody, because it's not really a big deal. They lock the doors. And that's probably something that we need to maybe put a resolution in and send it to banks and try to have some kind of a committee to do something, because that lag time, that 40-minute lag time is enough time for this guy to get pretty much anywhere from where he was into any school, anywhere in, I would say, in at least 2 boroughs, and probably 3 boroughs if you count Manhattan.
I'm just hearing that there's a sense that principals, I just want to clarify what I'm hearing to make sure I'm hearing it correctly before I respond, but I'm hearing that you're sensing that there is an inability on the school's part to call a shelter in if they feel the need to do so. Am I hearing you correctly?
Yes.
That's not true. The school can call a shelter in if they feel the need to do so.
And that's great. That's wonderful. But the other thing is, we need to get ahead of technology. And, you know, maybe, I know the Citizens app is not perfect. There's a lot of false positive, a lot of stuff that's there that takes a few minutes. But I just found out there was a shooting at the mall and a 15-year-old kid was shot. And I found out on Citizens app before I found out on the New York Post app, right? So so we could go as close to the source as possible, and less having a police scanner in the office. Citizens app is not a bad way, and then let the principals or someone in that school evaluate that in real time, or as close to real time as they can.
So what we do have, I'm glad you bring that up, because I understand the concern, right? What we do have is all schools have direct connection to our borough safety director. This is a liaison who works directly with the NYPD, and the borough safety director is our principal's like primary point of contact, and mine as well. They work through OSYD, or the Office of School and Youth Development, and that's who we were coordinating and liaising with. So the borough safety director, in almost all incidences, will be the one who will kind of provide that information for principals, what you're describing, to be able to give that real-time info and be able to confirm things for principals. In cases like an emergency situation like yesterday, it's going to be higher up in the OSYD along with NYPD. So, but just to kind of respond to the concern that you have, because it's a real concern. We do have mechanisms for being able to provide principals with that kind of real-time information and be able to confirm and be able to respond appropriately. In some cases, upgrade. In other cases, downgrade.
I'm sure, David, if I would have asked you what time did you got that phone call from Graciano yesterday, it would be an uncomfortable time frame that for what I'm feeling from the time the incident first came over the radio, the PD radio, and to the time where they made that phone call to you. And that's not even you. I'm not even criticizing you. I'm criticizing a system and to find a way to remove those intermediate steps altogether, or at least for the initial response. And then, so a principal might hear something, and based upon what they're hearing, based upon their own feeling, they just do the shelter in as the minimum amount of intervention possible, no ramifications at all. Just do it. And at that point, then bring it up the chain of command or down the chain of command. But the real issue is this reducing this lag time as much as possible. And I know that's not you. I know that's a much higher thing. That's a systemic problem, but it's something that I've seen again and again. We had it at Brooklyn Tech when there was a bomb threat. You know, it's just, it hasn't gotten any better. And I know some of the cultural things are involved, and it's scary to go out there and make a decision, especially if there's big ramifications, but we need to empower everybody to do so and make sure that there's no ramifications, even cultural ones or even like unofficial ones, if somebody does a lockdown and it turns out to be an overreaction. You know what? There's no such thing as an overreaction. There's no such thing as an overreaction. Person acted in good faith and they did something and they should be commended, and you just open up the doors and okay, go on as usual. That's just the only thing I'm trying to get. And I know it's here. We're gonna have to elevate that way beyond this Zoom meeting.
Yes, just to reiterate, yeah, I felt like it was kind of dangerous. It's one guy that you don't know where he was going to be in the city. And then we opened the schools up the next day. Like a lot of parents did tell me they didn't send their kids in today because the guy did not get caught until the afternoon, and nobody knows where he is. He was on MTA. He could have been anywhere. So I just feel like the way we react, it was lucky that there's no fatal casualties, but it could have been a lot worse. So I'm just saying that we should look into that if, God forbid, it happens again.
I'm sorry. I believe, you know, I just want to add a comment on this. I don't know whether, Elizabeth, you were saying to close the schools, but if you were, I just want to make sure that Superintendent Preto knows that not everyone's in agreement with this, because there are plenty of criminals who run around who are not caught in this city. And so this guy, yes, absolutely, he's deranged, but there's so many other criminals that have not been caught. And I don't think schools, you know, I do believe that DOE made the absolute right decision in keeping the schools open. And of course, it's up to the parents. I know that a lot of children didn't attend schools, the ones that had to ride the trains. But to the extent that you don't have to ride the train and it is in your neighborhood, you know, I believe that schools should have been open. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Marie, and everybody knew this was going on, so everyone's on heightened alert too. I mean, this morning schools were open, and yeah, I'm sure my son was on the N train 15 minutes before the one that was impacted. We had plenty of Brooklyn kids that were on that train. They were interviewed. And here's the thing, parents are seeing.
My husband was on that train
Yeah.
in that car 30 minutes prior.
What do you mean?
Every day.
Yeah. He
On
rode,
the second car. This happened in the second car. He always rides his second car because that's the car that he gets out, you know, in Manhattan.
so it's pretty scary, but it's even more scary when you're a parent and you see your kid on the news being interviewed in this thing and you think he's at school, which happened to some of my families at Brooklyn Tech.
No, undoubtedly, but do you think that the school should have been closed today?
No, not at all. No, I agree because, but everybody
also,
was on high alert.
If you think about it, this was a guy with was found with bombs. Like, would you take your kids out if there's bomb attack or a threat of bombs going off? I mean, he's not just a regular criminal. He had guns and he had bombs. I'm just saying that, I don't know, we should talk about it more and take insecurity if anything happens like that again. Like we have in place a lot of, like, we're so used to video chatting now. Some of the classes should have been in Zoom.
Some of the what?
Classes should have been Zoom
Oh.
since we already are, the kids are used to being in Zoom. And some of the teachers do take the train.
So let me just weigh in for a little bit here. I think it's a judgment call on everyone's, you know, personal comfort level. And some people are going to be more comfortable than others in different situations. And I can't fault anybody, Elizabeth, Vito, Marie, myself, Dr. Preto, anybody on the decisions that they feel was the right thing for them and their families. I think it was a really difficult time, and It's also very difficult for a principal to make a judgment call because they may have been waiting for some information from the NYPD. And the NYPD really are the ones that are there on the scene, assessing the level of threat that it's posing to the community. So they have a judgment call to make as well. I don't think this situation was easy on anybody. And I just wanted to take a note that I think we're all really doing the best we can. We can always disagree, but I want to acknowledge that, we were all feeling a little bit shaken by this, all of us. I mean, this happened in our neighborhood. I was chatting with a friend and made her late, which made her miss the shooting. So it hits close to home. And I think we're all still processing it. I mean, it's only a day later. So let's talk a little bit more about maybe how we could improve our communications with NYPD and maybe even escalate the conversation somehow to figure out what the trigger points are and the process is for improving lag times, as Vito called it. Yona, you have your, oh, sorry, Vito, did you want?
Yes, I have my hand up if I can.
Sorry, Yona.
Sorry, I'm having camera issues tonight, so I apologize for having the camera off.
No problem.
I also wanted to mention that if I were to not work remote anymore, I would have most likely been on that train yesterday. A couple of years ago, when there was like a bomb in the Port Authority station, if you guys remember it, that must have been like 4 years ago. I was stuck on the subway to Port Authority. So I definitely felt very, shaken by the whole situation. And I think that it does hit very close to home because I believe that, as a couple of you mentioned, we are either commuters to the city or New Jersey. So this, could have happened to any of us. I wanted to say that I was shocked that some of the parents did not get notified. And I do believe that as a generation, we're very likely to get information from social media or the news. But I wanted to ask Superintendent Preto if there is any messaging system that's kind of like, for example, one of my son's schools uses Class Dojo. So I was notified of the shelter-in-place situation by my son's teacher through Class Dojo. But another parent who does not have Class Dojo, they were not notified about anything that goes on in the school. And also a friend whose child attends another school, they got no notification from the school whatsoever. So is there, like, again, going back to the protocol, how do the schools communicate with the students? And I do want to emphasize that a lot of this is also personal because I am the kind of parent that I have notifications on my Class Dojo. So if a teacher sends any message, whether it's a project picture or it was like a true emergency message, I'm one of those that opens it. But we have to be aware that not everybody, even in this technology age, is technologically, I don't want to call it advanced, but not everybody is so on top of their phones or. So I wanted to ask, like, what is a system? And if it is not a good system, how can we work on having a better communication system between the schools and the students? Because email, I don't think email would be, in my other son's school, I usually talk to the teacher via email, and I did not receive anything from that school. And again, I know that we all assumed that we knew what was happening when we went to pick them up. But I really appreciated my son's teacher getting back to me via Class Dojo that this is a shelter-in-place situation, that the kids are not aware of what's going on, the little ones, that, they're trying to make the day as normal for them, which I do think is important for the kids not to, and I'm talking about like a 7-year-old here, that, in the case of emergency, I do believe that they need to be calm and not to be so as scared as, I wouldn't want my son to be as scared as I felt yesterday. So is there, like, what is the system of communicating between schools and parents? Thank you.
Yeah, so Yona, you brought up a good point. Oh, I'm sorry, Jen, may I?
Sure, go ahead.
So remember the terrorist attack in front of Stuyvesant a couple of years back? So there was
Yep.
the guy took a car and they wiped out the pedestrian and was right in front of Sty, and it was a horrible thing.
Yep.
What the issue is, and this is something that I think could be in our purview, is what was very impactful to the families was that there was the text messaging system that was paid for by the PTA. They paid for the text, and that everything went out almost in real time from the principals, and the parents felt comfortable, or they felt like, okay, it's under control. We're hearing from our kids, but these kind of messaging systems shouldn't be based on the largesse or the wherewithal of a PTA to provide them. There should be standard communication things in place, no matter what school is, and it should be paid for out of the general budget and not out of the school's budget. Like, this is an automatic thing that's paid for, and it's probably the text messaging, the email system, and so all this stuff that every single school should have it. And what I was saying before, Jen, is that you're saying, well, the police department's on the scene. I guarantee you, everyone has their tunnel vision, right? Everyone has the thing that they're working on. So they're doing 20 different things, and it's going to be a long time before they're thinking, oh wow, should we close the schools, right? It's just human nature. That's why if someone is monitoring, I'm really wondering if our borough coordinator is monitoring the radios in real time, and that's something that probably should be part of his job description, that he is monitoring the PD radios, the FD radios in real time for the area of his geographical responsibility, so that he can boom in real time. And when he hears a call coming over,
Vito, I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. I sense I sense an understanding about what happened yesterday that isn't, aligning with what happened, and I don't want to cause undue alarm for our response and coordination with the police department and our implementation of the protocol. So I want to assure everybody that the district, and we were in close and regular contact with the NYPD and the Office of School and Youth Development, is our primary safety arm and directly coordinates, including listening to the radio of NYPD and communicating directly with the police throughout the entire process, and advising the DOE and supporting us in the implementation of safety protocols. I also want to reiterate and emphasize that we take the safety protocols very seriously, and we implement them and we practice them as part of our safety plans that are approved by the NYPD, and we implement protocols that are that were designed in partnership with the NYPD, including the shelter in. So I just want to assure everybody that what happened yesterday, we implemented safety protocols to assure everyone's safety, to be proactive, and also to ensure that that we were keeping your children safe, and doing so in a manner in which we weren't also causing. And I understand the concern we're all here, but I want to make sure that we don't create the perception that doesn't match up to how the events unfolded yesterday and the reality of the actions on the ground. So, but at the same time, I understand everyone's concern. They're your children. I had children in school yesterday as well. My children were at school, and I have a similar. I share the concern, but I want to assure you that we implemented those protocols to make sure that your children were safe, and were responsive to and operated under the guidance of the New York City Police Department.
I think Jane Marie Kapitanakis has a hand up. Jane Marie, would you like to speak?
Thank you so much. I'm principal of PS 69, and I'm also your CSA representative here today. And I just wanted to also add what Dr. Preto was saying. Not only did we have our chain of command, but we had a district chain of command. And Dr. Preto also asked his administrators to come on to a Zoom call so that we could have a coordinated and well-communicated effort. And that was being done behind the scenes so that we can all maintain calm in the midst of chaos to lead your children and to lead our schools with a calm and full communication. So we thank you. And, you know, as Dr. Preto said, we have your children's safety that's one of our main missions, of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Kapitsanakis. Do we have anybody else who would like to have a question for Dr. Preto? I think Ellen does.
Just wondering if you had a breakout, if this will change the subject of the performance levels of the kids with IEPs on the statewide tests, on all of the other assessments. You don't have to, I'll send you my email address. If you have that information, I'd love to see it.
Ellen, are you asking me?
Yeah.
What's the just I want to make sure I hear your question right. I wasn't
Sorry.
sure. That's okay.
I just wanted, you talked about the breakout for the children in grades 3 to 5, and you said that they, in all the grades who were tested, and you gave figures about kids on the special education end, you gave figures about kids who were fully served, fully linked, and met with services. And I was wondering if you had a breakout of the reading and math scores for the kids who have IEPs. As much as compliance is an issue and certainly can lead to a better situation for the kids, competency in those areas is a question.
So we had disaggregated the data in the screeners. We had to do it ourselves. But we did disaggregate the data for our students with disabilities and our multilingual learners in elementary school and in middle school. The elementary school students, I don't have it disaggregated against the compliance data. I don't have.
No, that's too complicated.
But what I can say is that with the exception of middle school ELA for multilingual learners, our students are performing close to pre-pandemic performance. So the students with disabilities and multilingual learners in District 20, in particular students with disabilities, performed above city average for students with disabilities in general on the ELA and math exams. There's still a gap between students with disabilities and the all students category, but nonetheless, like our students with disabilities in the district perform above the city average for students with disabilities, so they do pretty well in comparison to their peers across the city. And we're seeing in the screener data that they're performing near there, close to 20% proficiency in ELA, close to 20% proficiency in math in the elementary schools. It's lower in the middle schools, closer to 14% in ELA and math. One of our big areas of concern, and one place that we're prioritizing our planning efforts for next year, is in middle school literacy for our multilingual learners. That's an area where we know that we have a lot of work to do to respond to the data, because we're seeing some trends that are really concerning. We're not sure what the impetus is of in it, beyond factors that we are already all aware of, the impact of remote learning and hybrid learning on multilingual learner students, the impact of the pandemic and pre-pandemic trends and patterns in the nation on immigrant families. So we know that all of these things had impacts on children of immigrant families in the elementary school, moving up into the middle school. But beyond that, we're also digging into seeing what additional trends we can look at within our locus of control that we can program for and plan for the student experience in schools. So that's definitely something that we have in our sights and are working to plan for it. But that's one thing that is definitely something that's a cause of concern for all of our principals, primarily in middle school, as well as us at the district level.
Thank you.
I believe we can take one more question for Dr. Preto in the interest of time. I believe Paulette Healy has her hand up. Paulette, would you mind unmuting yourself?
Sure. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thanks.
Yeah, I thank you. I'm actually, I just wanted to thank Superintendent Prado for his responsiveness, in terms of keeping our school safe and being such wonderful partners with the community. I'm a parent of District 20, but I'm also the Deputy Chief of Staff for Councilwoman Alexa Vilas for District 38. It's the heart of where everything happened, and we were on site during the events yesterday, and a lot of us didn't get home to our families until after 10. So we appreciate the partnership. I wanted to give Principal Kapitanakis a huge shout out for being so mindful and grounded in her empathy for, not only what our families had went through yesterday, but also the fact that, acknowledging that our staff, our principals, our teachers are all holding a lot in terms of, their own trauma that they have not been able to process, only because they had to keep a happy face, to keep our children calm, to make sure that they felt safe in their environment. And we really want to acknowledge that. And the councilwoman has actually visited, she spent all morning starting very early visiting our schools after a long day of being on site, making sure that any mental health supports, any trauma-centered supports, additional to what the schools were already providing, that we can do for our staff and for their staff. And we visited the families, we visited victims at the hospital as well, and we've been in touch with making sure that they get the supports that they need also. So I just want to bring the conversation back to the fact that, we woke up this morning, trains were running, skies were blue and clear, and we were kind of almost forced into a sense of normalcy. And that is traumatic in itself. So, I'm hearing the various conversations here, from parents who did not feel safe sending their children into school. And you know what, that's your choice, and we support that. And we want to make sure that, there aren't any punitive measures that come out, in terms of attendance for parents who decided to keep their children home. Parents who couldn't get their children into the building yesterday because of the subway situation, that they're not penalized, in terms of their attendance. And we're having these conversations with not only our principals, but our district leaders as well. And we also, as a community, we realize that, we need to provide a platform in order to have conversations like the one we're having today, to have our staff be able to unload what it is that they're carrying, what they would like to see in terms of responsiveness, what they think we could have done better. So the councilwoman is actually scheduled. We did a quick turnaround, and we are holding a day of unity. It's a community event on Saturday, April 16th at 4 p.m. in conjunction with Assemblywoman Marcela Martinez's office. I will share the flyer with the district office, with the superintendent, and with CEC 20, if we can share it out. It is a quick turnaround. We do realize that it is a holiday weekend, and that's intersecting with a lot of different holidays that are going on this weekend. But we felt that it was important for us to at least provide a safe space for our community to come together and to heal together. It will be facilitated by a licensed mental health grief counselor, and translation will be provided as well. And we do have community partners who will be providing additional long-term resources at our event. So it will be in Sunset Park on Saturday, April 16th at 4 p.m.
Paulette, thank you so much. Could you post some of that information in the chat so anybody who's interested could attend?
Sure, I'm happy to put that in the chat, and I'll make sure that I email that over to Natalia and to Superintendent Prado's office as well.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So let's move on. I was going to ask Dr. Prado if he had any kind of an update on the data breach. But I don't think Dr. Prado was prepared to answer that, since that wasn't on the agenda. But in the interest of time, I'm going to table that for next month's meeting, since I'm pretty sure there hasn't been that much movement in the DOE on that.
Jen, there's no update on the data breach other than families who were involved in the data breach were notified of the nature of the breach and their involvement of it if they were involved. If family was not involved in the data breach, then they were not notified. All families who were involved in the data breach and were notified of the nature of the breach, what type of personally identifiable information was involved in the breach, and also the offer to opt in to free identity theft monitoring services for 2 years at no cost to the family that's being paid for by the entity that was responsible for the breach. It is an opt-in for the service, so families will need to sign up for it. It's pretty simple, but nonetheless, like, they do need to opt in by calling a phone number that's provided. If families have any questions about the data breach, they can reach out directly to the parent coordinator or to the principal. And if there's any questions after that, can reach out directly to my office. But schools were provided with that information and the family communication to provide to families that were involved in the breach.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We should post some of that information at some point on how to get those services and figure out a little bit more accountability. I know this is beyond your, but
yeah, the services are offered. The services are offered directly to families that were involved in the breach. I think it has to do. Now I'm speculating, but I speculate that the reason being that identity theft services are very personal and they're connected to individuals. So that the accounts that are being set up for and paid for by the vendor need to be provided directly to those individuals.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Preto.
No problem.
So next we have the president's report. I want to sort of keep this moving. Basically, Steve wanted to let us know that he and Vito had met with along with some other CEC members across the city, met with the chancellor earlier this week. And the meeting mostly focused on parental engagement, governance, and basically how can we make schools better. I think Steve's impression is that the chancellor is really sincere in trying to get parental feedback, especially on G&T programming. But there is still some debate as to at what age the kids should be tested at. And I think Steve was able to push the idea that mixed ability classrooms are not optimal. There was also a discussion about FACE and CEC interactions with the DOE. A lot of councils have a difficult time working with their FACE representative. And the DOE sometimes have been a little less than helpful, or to be totally honest. And I know it's a big organization and there's a lot of, cumbersome type things in the way, but it's a bit frustrating sometimes as a parent to try and get information that we want. Basically, those were brought up, some of these issues. Fortunately, our FACE representative, Steve Weiser, has been pretty great. So thank you, Steve. If you're on the line, we appreciate your help. There's also a request made by, I think, Steve and Vito, creating a log of all the CCEC requests and creating an escalation process for parents should their requests be overdue. They also brought up the topic of mayoral control. And basically, Steve and Vito, I think they mentioned that we could cooperate on renewing mayoral control if the DOE helps us on certain reforms, including a little bit more influence on the superintendent hiring and evaluation process, better communication to all CEC members and not just presidents on official DOE announcements, and expanding the number of CEC representation on the PEP. And I know they're not easy requests, and because they require changes to state law and chancellor's regulations. So these were just kind of things that were put on the table. And finally, the DOE has agreed to create a series of working groups to meet regularly on governance and school improvement, and to have a rotating department meetings with different DOE departments, which I think is outstanding if it actually happens. But we haven't had any confirmation on that just yet. Vito, would you like to add to that at all, since you were actually at that meeting?
The one thing I was very, very excited about is he's mentioning, I think it was in the press as well, these 5 additional specialized high schools, 1 in each borough. And the chancellor shared that they're going to populate them the way that they proposed 4 years ago when they had a whole big brouhaha where you took the top percentage, and 4 years ago it was 7%. He mentioned 4%. I don't know, whatever the number will be. And so every middle school will send their best kids, or have the option to send their best kids to these new specialized high school. And that was very, very heartening, because it should be standard operating procedure that you don't take things away, you expand the pie so people aren't fighting. So we'll have these 5,000 seats, the specialized high school seats that'll be populated the same way. We'll have these new seats with the new way to populate them, and we'll still have our screen high schools, and we'll have all of these options for our kids. And the goal is to have as many seats for these kids as there are kids who would do well in these kind of a program. So very, very different feeling in the room than the previous administration. Very, very hopeful as far as parent engagement. As far as he said specifically, if a CEC wants gifted and talented, give them gifted and talented. If another CEC wants after school programs, you give them after school programs. You give everybody what they want. And that's just something that you didn't really hear a lot of the last administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Vito. So last thing, I would like to open our meeting to the public comment segment, finally. Oh, Ellen, did you raise your hand?
Yes. Before you finish your report, could you tell me what those rotating committees were again?
Those are basically another parent engagement type of thing, right, Vito?
What was the name of them is what I'm trying to
It hasn't been created yet. It was just a work in right. They just suggested that it was suggested that we create a way to interface with the DOE more and be more familiar with all the different departments of the DOE. And this was a way that the DOE could engage with us more. So it hasn't happened yet. There's no confirmation that it's happening at all, but they have agreed to it informally at this point.
And just as an observation, I take great offense to the remark about taking our best kids. Extremely great offense to that. And I also would like to remind you all that the research shows that mixed abilities classes are those classes that provide not only exposure at all ends to all sorts of enrichment as well as academic programs, but exposure to those individuals who, if we are talking about our children becoming leaders, will have to represent at one point in time or another. I am sorry to end this on an angry note, but I bitterly resent that comment.
I hear you, Ellen.
So did all of 3rd Avenue.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Vito. Let's begin our public comment. So Natalia, do you have our first speaker up? I will try and keep time. Everyone is limited to 2 minutes right now. So let's try and be aware. I will try and give you a 10-minute or 15-minute, 15-second warning before we have to sort of move on. So Natalia, did anyone sign up on the public comment?
Okay, we have 3 people who signed up. I'm sorry if I mispronounced this. Hate Bao.
Is Hate Bao still here? I don't see him.
Okay.
Okay, so who's next?
Next we have Ellen Izzo.
Hi, Ellen Izzo. Are you able to unmute?
Yes, I think so. Did I?
Yeah, you're on.
Okay, thank you. I am very curious about how new buildings, like for instance, 746, here's my screenshot. Can you see my screenshot? This is a document that it's one of the only things I could find from the Office of District Planning about new schools. And I know this has been a contentious thing. I'm a teacher at PS 503, just down the road from the new school, the new now it has a different number, 939 and 936. So when the school was being developed, I really don't know. I've been to several CEC meetings on this, and nothing was really discussed about the middle school aspect of it. It all seemed to be about zoning for the elementary school. This is what I got from online. Are you able to see this?
It's hard.
I can put it, I mean, I'll try to, I just printed it out, but it does say, the only part it says is the new middle school and new building K746 is planned to offer a choice admissions method, and students from across the district will be able to apply. This seems to be in conflict with what has been said. I've heard things from, in 2017, it was decided that the school will be an admission school. It will be a screen school, but this is from 2019. So I'm very confused about who decides if a school is screened or not. What's the application process? What else
You
did I
have
write?
15 seconds.
And when was this voted? I can't find any information on it other than this that I found. It's funny that COVID has let us see our meetings here, but our notes from past years before COVID, you can't really understand what really transpired. So my question is, who decides on the schools? And that's my question.
Dr. Preto, do you have an answer? Because I'm pretty sure that a lot of this background for this school is beyond my time. And I've gotten a lot of conflicting information about the background of this. I'm not sure if you wanted to quickly address that before we move on to the last speaker.
What's the question? Just want to make sure I'm hearing it correctly.
Like who decides if the school is becoming a screen school or a choice school?
The short answer is it depends, but it comes down to the department.
The Department of what?
The Department of Education. There is no single person who's responsible.
Sorry, Ellen, I don't think that was the answer you're looking for.
Well, it's not exactly an answer, really. This is supposed to be something that is that we're all stakeholders in.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just going to quickly say thank you, Ellen, for speaking. I totally understand your concern. It has been something that we have been looking into behind the scenes as well, and trying to just sort of tease out all the details. Myself included has been a little bit confused as to the background because of a lot of the conflicting information that we've received. But I do hear you. And I again, like Dr. Preto said, it's a process, and there's not any one person that creates this, situation. I think it was sort of like there's questions as to the inception of the school, the idea of it first, and then what had happened in between. So it's yes, I agree in the chat that it should be more transparent and involve family engagement. And that is something that as a CEC member, we are trying to get more family engagement, because it has been a kind of a problem. Our meetings are public, but not everyone seems to know when we have our meetings. So these are things that we're all just trying to address, that community engagement is important to us. And we're trying to get more people to get involved. Yes, not just CEC engagement, but we are one way. You're at our meeting, we're trying to figure out what we can do for you. So I'm sorry, we do have to move on. Natalia, do you have anybody else on that list?
Okay, the last person who signed up was Paulette.
Hi, Paulette, you're back. Did you already say what you wanted to say?
Well, originally, yes, because I was reporting out as representative of my elected official. However, I am going to don my parent hat now, because I'm joining my colleague on the CCSE, Ellen McHugh, in voicing the outrage that I am feeling. I'm not only a District 20 parent, I'm also a District 75 parent, and I was here for the conversation around 936 and 939, and the community advocates in this district fought very hard to have a District 75 setting in 936. And with this particular policy change, it totally eradicated the D75 inclusion program that was at 936. So now there is no existing D75 middle school setting for any of the 300 children that are in D75 within our D20 schools. So they have no choice but to go to District 17, District 13, District 21, District 22. And in 2024, thanks to our advocacy and the partnership with Superintendent Prado, there will be a middle school setting, but it won't be available until 2024. So I just want to put that out there in terms of like how the district, how this decision has affected not only this district, but District 75 children who are our children. And we're not talking about the same deficit model that the previous member had spoken about in terms of selecting the best. Our children are the best. Our children find ways to learn curriculum above the challenges that they were born with, above the challenges in terms of the curriculum, the way it's designed right now, where it does not teach our children true literacy. 20 years ago, we learned phonics, and nowadays it's a new concept. So, I tried not to be confrontational, but when
15
people
seconds.
are talking about children with disabilities and children with IEPs as lesser than, it really grates my nerves. And my child is a District 75 advocate. He's 14 years old and has been able to implement more change than most adults that I know. So to
All
say
right,
that our
Paulette,
children don't
yes.
have, yes, I'll round up, sorry. Just to say that our children are lesser than because they are not considered gifted is a disservice to all children all across our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Paulette. I hear you as well. That was very well spoken. Thank you for your comments. And thank you as well, Ellen, Izzo, for your comments as well. I understand there's a lot of frustration and anger, and we do hear you. But beyond what the CEC can do is beyond what we can do. So we're really trying our best to do better by our community. So Natalia, is there anybody else?
No, there's no one else who signed up.
Fantastic. So I think this concludes our meeting. I would like to make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And the meeting
But
is.
before I finish, I just want to say, I did think that what happened was okay, but I just think we need to just tighten the policy for what happened. I'm just saying we could have done a little bit better. And thank you for
Elizabeth.
everybody in the district. I just want to just mention. But anyway, I'll second.
Thank you so much, everybody. You guys all stay safe. Thank you for participating. And we hope to see you again next month. Meeting adjourned.
Hey, happy holidays. Bye.
Happy Ramadan.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Hey, good night, everyone, and thank you for our interpreters. I'm so sorry about the lines.
Don't worry, it happens all the time. Thank you for having us. Good evening.
Good evening. Take care.
All right, everyone, have a good night.